And you've got all these letters, these World War I era, end of the war to end all wars, 1918, from a Shreveport mom to her son. What was his name? Ferguson.
Jerome Ferguson.
How old was he?
He was 24.
24.
He was 24. He died in 1962. At the age of 68, so I've sort of done the calculation back. Yeah.
Any of the relatives, family still in the area? Have you been able to find out?
Not in this area, I don't think. There are descendants that live elsewhere, of course, that are now, of course, very interested in acquiring.
So
the
that
letters,
would be, he would be there.
them.
I'm trying to figure it out because my family tree, my genealogy is so old. That would he'd probably be somebody's great grandfather.
Actually, I think it's a great grandfather.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. More passages from the letters that stuck out for you that people would want to hear. I love this.
Yeah, so we know that by and as I said, these sort of transcend late 1918 into 1919. So this is a letter from Sunday, February 9th of 1919, where she writes to my dear Jerome, and she's describing conditions here in Shreveport.
This is his mom, right?
This is his mom,
sorry.
right? This is his mom, and she's describing conditions here, and she says that. Just to break the monotony of things, I want to update you that there is still much flu here yet. And then she mentions Mrs. Best's, and I don't know who that is, but Mrs. Best's sister was here for a visit, and she died while here. She was the baby girl, and she had just been married 2 weeks before. Her husband was still in the service and stationed at San Antonio. He was called away, and the result was that he was not here when she died. Her mother was extremely ill, and we thought we would lose her too. All of the family is very fearful, all with the same disease.
Talking about the Spanish flu.
Talking about the Spanish flu. And she said, it is just too pitifully sad for me to write any more about.
What do you know about the family and what Mr. Ferguson went on to do in Shreveport and how long he was here, etc.?
So Jerome Ferguson did come home in mid-1919. He ended up being a director, reaching director level of First National Bank, and was in banking, I think, and also cotton broking for most of his life. He was a deacon at First Presbyterian Church.
Children, do we know yet?
Yes.
How many?
Children, don't know how many yet. I haven't found the entire family tree, but obviously there are direct descendants that we know about.
Wow.
When you look at... go ahead.
What makes a 24-year-old man keep a pile of letters? That's rare.
That is an incredible question, and Aaron, it's one that I have asked myself since the last few days looking through these, that how remarkable that he kept every single one of them. And they're all in the original envelopes. They're all folded very neatly. They were in chronological order. So obviously he was
an orderly lad.
Yeah, an orderly lad, and had a great affection for his family.
When you look at that, when you look at those letters, because the first thing that occurs to me is what a lost art letter writing is. Nobody does. I mean, technology changes, people change, society changes. But the almost, and even going back, what pops into my head is the Ken Burns Civil War documentary, where they read some of those letters.
Right.
And it seems like over the last 100 to 150 years, there is a degree of literacy and the ability to put that on paper that has ceased to exist entirely.
That's right. Well, our language has changed, and the way that we communicate has changed, obviously.
Yeah, now it's cave drawings. It's emojis.
We're regressing, right? We live in an age of very rapidly changing communication technology, and I think this is a very poignant reminder to us of an age when, think about it today, if you had a family member overseas, for instance, serving in the military, you have instant access to them almost through email.
And this family would go
weeks,
months.
She mentions in many of her letters,
not knowing whether he's alive or dead.
She's mentioned in her letters many times, it has been 10 days since we've heard anything and 3 weeks since a letter from you. There is no, we've lost this perspective because we have instant access to each other. And so it has really, in many ways, truncated our communications. We can communicate with fewer words, much more succinctly, perhaps losing a lot of the beautiful language and
And this was at the end of the war,
Right.
where he could sit down and write a letter anytime. It's not like he was out in the front. You watch Saving Private Ryan, where on D-Day, from D-Day till when, your family back home, they don't know how you are.
There's no moment
If you're alive
yeah.
or dead, and alive or dead, and it's months and months since you get a letter.
Right. You don't
Imagine
know.
what that was like, not only for the soldiers in the field, but for the families back home.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with these letters? What's the plan now?
Well, the plan, immediate plan, is to simply get really very high quality, high resolution scans of them, so that we'll have an archive, a backup archive, and then from that point, these will either be archived in the Noel Archives at LSU Shreveport, or with the Spring Street Museum, which is, of course,
So what we will do is we'll get some photos of these here in a couple of seconds before Dr. CHERYL hits the door, and we will put those up on the website later, and the copy of the interview and a replay and all that kind of
But
stuff.
if the family really wants the originals, you're going to turn them over.
I think we are certainly hoping to have a conversation with them about that. And
Okay.
There's always it's always a challenge when you're dealing with the emotions involved here versus the practicality of preserving something that is historic. These letters give further insights into conditions here in Shreveport that might be important to future historians. So having the original record, we always like to have the primary original source
Yeah.
at our fingertips, and so we're going to have a conversation about it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.